the beat goes on. And the beat goes on. Just like my love.
Somewhere in the world, someone is zooming in on your face, wondering what it must be like to be loved by you. So smile. Not everything is broken. Hi, I'm Hope Nechibambe. I am one-third of the co-creators of #WeAreDyingHere. I think it is important for poetry to be in schools because it is an innovative and can be an exciting way to learn. Poetry has impacted my life in that it has allowed for me to look within myself and challenge some of the perspectives that I've held that have been limiting to me and also limiting to the people in my life. But I think one of the most special things it's done for me is that it has allowed for me, or rather it has invited me to get on a journey towards healing. And that is certainly what I hope for every time I share poetry in whatever platform, that it is an invitation to us to interrogate, to look within ourselves, to ask the important question, but that it is also an invitation for us to get on this path that hopefully leads us towards healing.
Hey everybody, welcome to Creative Arts Conference 2022. It's day 2. Thank you so much for logging on and joining us on this awesome conference. Yesterday was fantastic. We had amazing speakers and workshop presenters, starting off with Andrea Zafiriku. It was just phenomenal. There were so many highlights from yesterday. So we want to kick off this morning by reflecting on day 1, since we did a bit of reflection on with our conference theme. So in the chat this morning, why don't you start off with just sharing us one highlight, something that stood out for you from any of our speakers during the conference yesterday, day 1. Thapelo, what was your highlight?
Morning, Belinda. Wow, I have to say that I'm just going to be a little bit biased because actually I was the one hosting this one. So Hanika, when she was speaking about bringing art alive with the bars, and literally you could feel the bars in her voice and her presentation and what she was speaking about. It was very key. I think I took home a whole lot of connecting there. And I have to say one another that I was not in a session, but it was the conversation after. It was about the Jane workshop. Jane spoke so well and connected with a whole lot of people. I'm telling you, after the conference, a lot of conversation around connecting and realness and authenticity.
Yeah, no, awesome.
It really spoke to me.
Yeah, I really felt like some of the presenters, you could sense their passion coming through the screen. It was amazing.
It actually felt like they were here.
Yeah,
it was an in-person conference. I think that was so beautiful about it, that the ability to connect. It was so amazing. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, and you, Eni?
I think for me it was the thing of people that just realized again, for creative arts teachers, it's just so important that we actually remember our role to inspire. Because that was the thread that was running right through the sessions yesterday. Was every time we came back to that basic thing, as the teachers, we must never forget how important it is currently to inspire and to inspire learners. And I think that is something that, if that's the only message we take away, so it will be, and it will be a good message today.
Yeah, I agree. I think someone in our chat mentioned the art has the ability to overcome challenges. That's from Francesca van Niekerk. So yeah, someone's in agreement with you there. I think for me, there were just so many takeaways and highlights. The one that stood out for me was from a panel discussion with Karine and Kurt, but particularly what Karine said about the metronomes. I didn't know that, that metronomes, when you put them, a few of them together, and here's Molly joining us, Molly metronome, but maybe Molly needs a few friends around it to help her, just synchronize on. That was like a wow moment for me, which was fantastic. And I think that's really what we want to do with this conference, is actually get our arts teachers and our teachers in general just to synchronize and collaborate and inspire each other. And so I'm super excited for what we're seeing happening on the platform and how people are engaging. So Thapelo, don't you want to just remind everybody about how to engage on the platform?
Yes, thank you. I think before I speak about how to engage on the platform, the Google platform, I just want to say a huge congratulations to Maria Rita. We're going to give you a prize for being on our leaderboard. Anyway, do engage with us on the Woover platform, connect with us, engage, ask questions, join the community, and also organize meetups that you can have with people that are near you. Speaking about that, Belinda, I think now I'm going to speak about social media. Do follow us on all social media platforms, engage with us using the hashtag CAC 2022. I know yesterday Molly was here and we did a whole lot of things and the conversation was quite nice. And today I want you maybe to speak about what we're going to be doing in terms of challenges with Molly.
Yeah. So this is Molly, everybody. So hi, Molly. So Molly Metronome, as you can hear, she's beating a little bit better this morning. So that must mean, Molly, our challenges are working. Hey, what do you think?
I do feel a little bit better.
Awesome. You do sound a whole lot better today. And you're definitely beating
I
better.
really want to dance a little.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's awesome.
I'm getting your groove back.
Awesome. And I hope that you all getting your groove back as well, like Molly is. So, yeah, that's what we really want to see on this conference. There's exhibitor booths, go and engage with our speakers, but also go and engage with some of the challenges. Don't forget, you can actually go back and still do some of yesterday's challenges if you didn't get to do all of that yesterday. But there are some amazing things happening on the platform, on the challenges booth, which we're going to share with you right now. Here we go. So, as you know, we've got some current top contenders. Well done to all of these amazing people who are engaging on the platform. We're so excited to see what you're doing, some really creative stuff happening, which we're going to be sharing with you in a moment. But just a reminder, for participating in these challenges, you stand a chance to win Purple ZA party packs, which are super amazing. And then obviously take a lot of Amazon vouchers, and also thank you to Old Mutual, who's sponsoring some of those prizes as well. So do keep going with those challenges. We're going to share a couple of those challenges with you. These first two are from our Candid Camera Challenge, and they specifically are speaking into the conference experience. So let's give a listen to our amazing Candid Cameras.
I have really loved all the exciting ideas and the fact that art is seen as
awesome.
a
And our next two
activity as well as a formative activity, in that we develop the children in ways, unexpected ways and creative ways. So I've really loved just the thought of how art is an investment in the future.
Fantastic. I love that. Our next two are sharing about the more out of the box thinking, which is super cool. So let's give a listen to those two.
Mom, Simba. No, my kids, are you ready to Simba? No, there is a lion. Lion. Run away, my kids. The lion is in the house. I'm Simba, the lion. Yeah.
One of the highlights for me from the conference today was listening to Andrea talking about Alex's case study and how art just created a safe space for him, and learning about how art is important and must be protected, and just hearing everything that she had to say.
And then we also have two, because we're on a virtual platform, and people are logging on from home. We had to actually involve some family on these. So let's have a listen and see what they came up with.
Will you dance with me? Tra la 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 la. Will you dance with me? Tra la 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 la. Will you dance with me? Tra la 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 la. Will you dance with the darling kitty?
Oh my
Will
gosh,
you
this is
dance
so
with
amazing.
me?
Thank you so much to everyone who's participating in our challenges. We've got some super awesome sketch notes, something that I've been trying to do, but I'm taking inspiration from these that are shared. And then we also have amazing sketch note from Julia White Phillips. So Julia, we're actually giving you a prize because we were completely blown away with your sketch note. So we're going to be sending you a butterfly art project voucher that we're sure you're going to enjoy. So keep on participating in those challenges. It's really awesome to see what you're doing. So as I said, you can still do yesterday's challenges, but we're kicking off the morning with our 8 new challenges for the day. You can see them on screen. Go to the booth, log on and do those challenges. And we're so excited to see everything that you come up with. So now to kick off the morning, we're going to head off into our first keynote speaker, Dr. Elizabeth Stafford. So Henny, won't you tell us a little bit about Elizabeth?
Yes, everyone. I must admit I've learned a new word this morning, and that's that word media, social media slavers. So I don't know whether it's Elizabeth or me that's going to get that title for the day, but that's how I discovered Liz as following her on social media. And I think it's a huge honor for us in South Africa to introduce South African teachers to Elizabeth. That's the Director of Music Education Solutions, a global company that's working with music education in the UK. I think Liz has over 2 decades, and I'm sorry to mention that word too, Liz, but over 2 decades of experience in primary music education, as well as singing, choral work, and working with a wide range of age groups. I think the most important thing for me that I would like her to touch base as she's telling us this morning how to discover the beat is actually the fact that she's editor of the Primary Music Education magazine. Now, for South African music teachers, I would like you just today, if you get 5 seconds, Google that magazine. I think if you want to be on top of tech, if you want to introduce tech successfully, that's the way to follow. Liz is also writing a lot of work for the magazine itself. Welcome, Liz, as the first keynote speaker at the 2022 Creative Arts Conference.
Thank you. Hopefully you can hear me okay. We haven't tested the sound this morning, so hopefully my microphone's working and everything is coming across all right for you today. So good morning, everybody. I'm really happy to be joining you here virtually all the way from the UK. Funny time for us in the UK over the last few days, so it's a very strange atmosphere here, but I'm really pleased to be joining you, and I just want to say a quick thank you to Rustenburg Girls Junior School, to Schoolscape and the Western Cape Education Department for inviting me to speak today. Music educators like ourselves are obviously heavily invested in the idea that music is a vital component of every child's education. We know that it can improve well-being, social and emotional skills, and encourage academic progress. The most zealous of us even suggest that children could be taught nothing but music and still come out at the other end ready for life in the real world. However, for all that's said about the power of music, during a global pandemic of nightmarish proportions, music was powerless to save us. There were millions of deaths, the global economy tanked, unemployment skyrocketed, and a mental health crisis developed. And music did absolutely nothing to prevent any of that. As educators, indeed as humans, none of us would make the choice to give a hungry child a violin lesson rather than a food parcel. In an ideal world, we would never be faced with this decision. But thanks to the pandemic, education, like all other sectors, has been in survival mode. And music has not factored in the life-saving decisions that schools had to make every day during the peak of the crisis. The point that I'm getting at is that for all that we, myself included, as musicians and teachers, bang on about the essential purpose of music, about the vital importance of music entitlement for all children, we do perhaps need to take a reality check. In a global pandemic, priorities shift, and we have to acknowledge that words like essential quite rightly return to their dictionary definitions. I'm not saying that there wasn't a place for music in our pandemic response, for keeping the spirits up, for fighting boredom in lockdowns, for stimulating our brains, for building a sense of community, for helping us focus on something positive for a change, for giving us some sense of normality. Music was an important tool. But given the choice between an oboe and the vaccine, I'll take the vaccine, thank you very much. As we leave the pandemic behind, we enter a healing and recovery phase. And this is where music absolutely comes into its own. Now that we're less about imminent threat to life and more about catching up on what we've lost, music returns to its place as an essential component of our education and indeed our health system. We know that there is a mental health crisis, particularly amongst young people, that, if not caused by, has certainly been exacerbated by the pandemic. And we also know that music is a powerful complementary therapy to encourage mental wellness. First and foremost, music-making activities give young people an opportunity to express their feelings. Due to school closures and social distancing measures, many of our young people are feeling isolated, lonely, and some are presenting with anxiety disorder and depression. Activities such as songwriting allow our young people to safely express their feelings through an artificial barrier. Instead of it being, "This is how I feel," it becomes, "This is a song about how someone might feel," making it easier to offload and deal with these feelings. Music gives us opportunities for quiet reflection. Maybe we aren't ready to share our feelings just yet. Maybe we don't know what our feelings are. But listening to music can give us the space to just sit and think and be, with no pressure from the outside world. For those with anxiety, the calming power of music cannot be understated. Participating in music is a flow activity. This type of activity is one where you become so absorbed in what you're doing that the outside world practically ceases to exist. Psychologists and cognitive behavioural therapy practitioners have long championed the benefits of flow activities for mental well-being and happiness. And in a world of constant interruptions, giving your full attention to a musical activity can provide that state of flow. When our young people, and indeed all of us, I think, feel that we've lacked this over the course of the pandemic, is human interaction. This has made us feel lonely and isolated, but has also impacted young people's social and communication skills. Music provides a fantastic opportunity for interaction, and in particular, in the case of extracurricular activities and community groups, interaction across age ranges, allowing our young people to rebuild their communication skills and connect with like-minded others. It can give them somewhere to belong and a community to be part of, ensuring that they have somewhere to turn if they ever feel lonely or isolated again. And finally, unfortunately for those of us who prefer donuts to running, physical activity is crucial for our mental wellness. Music and movement activities can provide an opportunity to engage in physical activity for those children who might self-identify as unsporty and give a much needed boost to their mental well-being. Recovery from the pandemic is not all about mental health. There is academic recovery to consider also. This may well be why many countries are now focusing more on core subjects and skills, and in some cases, music is being squeezed out of the curriculum. This is a completely understandable decision. You can see exactly where it's coming from, but it's not necessarily the right way to help our young people catch up on what they've missed. Music has been shown to support the development of critical evaluation skills, thinking, reasoning, and decision-making skills, and to have an impact on the imagination, how children explore the world around them and express themselves. In an age of automation, where computers are being used to replace humans in every possible job function, our young people will need these skills to make them employable. Why focus figures needed for job functions that computers have already mastered. After all, as yet, computers are not able to think creatively. And long may that remain the case, otherwise the future will start to look extremely frightening. There are many studies that have proven a link between music and academic achievement, although it is only responsible of me to state that there are almost an equal number of studies stating the exact opposite. Whether music is directly responsible for improved performance in subjects like maths or languages or not, what is clear is that any music lesson could be used to support maths or literacy learning. So we don't have to cancel our music lesson for more maths or language lessons. After all, musicians count the beat. The Western staff notation system of rhythmic notation is based on fractions. And when we're singing, we'll almost always use words. Collaboration is a vital skill for the workplace, and participation in group musical activities can give children the opportunity to develop the leadership and team working skills through learning to communicate with and understanding one another. The focus in music is almost always on working in a team. Any ensemble, even a soloist and accompanist, will fall apart without team working and communication. So the study of this subject provides important soft skills for future success. As we discovered earlier, music can be a great support for mental wellness, but it can also help us to develop the social, emotional, and spiritual skills to perhaps lessen the risk of developing mental health issues in the first place. Exploring music, particularly through listening, helps us to develop our understanding of the world around us, feeding into our personal morals and philosophy, and helping us to control and recognize emotions, which in turn will help us to form secure relationships. This gives our young people a strong foundation to be able to deal with everything that life throws at them. So, music can support development in various ways, and this will be helpful as schools try to help pupils catch up with the skills and knowledge lost to the disruption of the last few years. But fundamentally, music is also an important subject in its own right, one which was quite difficult to keep going during the pandemic due to challenges such as safety regulations for in-person learning and technological challenges for online learning. If we're trying to catch up on what we have lost, then music should surely be one of the subjects at the front of the queue. As we have seen today, music has value to support a whole range of other academic subjects and to support mental wellness. However, I would now urge a word of caution. The more we justify music in terms of what it can do to support other subjects, the more we relegate it to a subsidiary function. We lose the importance of music in its own right, and this is a dangerous situation to be in. If music is just there to support the development of other skills, then pretty soon, maybe even already, those in charge will be asking, well, why don't we just deal with those skills directly instead of indirectly through music? And music will disappear from our schools completely. In the UK, there has recently been a strong backlash against advocating for music through highlighting its external benefits for this very reason. Even our schools inspectorate, Ofsted, has stated that studying music helps you get better at music, and that in itself is a good enough reason to study it, regardless of any other perceived benefits. We need to remember that music was one of the first subjects to be included in education, that it was, and still is, a highly prized as an accomplishment for the great and the good in society. Music is an essential part of humanity. All of us have music inside of us, which is deeply connected to our feelings, emotions, and sense of self. We should study music because it teaches us what it is to be human. As educators, we are always learning, and therefore even the pandemic has provided food for thought. We know now that however important music is in ordinary times, there will be times when it has to take a backseat over more pressing priorities. The key is to make sure that music only makes way in times of dire need, and that it is the first thing to come back at the earliest opportunity. We may have learned to live without it for a while, but our lives were all the poorer for it. The enrichment music can bring to our mental, physical, and educational well-being is worth fighting for. If you want to continue this discussion with me on Twitter, you can find me at Dr. Liz Stafford. Music Education Solutions can be found at Music Ed Solution, and Primary Music Magazine at Primary Music Mag. Until then, thank you.
Greetings, everybody. I am Grandmaster Lundie. I'm coming to you from a beautiful sea point out here in Cape Town City. I just want to say salute to all the teachers. Thank you so much for supporting and pushing the arts. I consider myself an artist, so the art have definitely, or should I say, the arts have provided for me. It clothed me, it fed me, put a roof over my head, not just for me, but for my family as well. If it wasn't for the arts, I don't know where I would be. So thank you so much. All of the best for the conference. And on that note, peace, one love, coming to once again all the way from Cape Town City, DJ Lundie and Master Lundie. Peace, one love.
That was so awesome to hear a shout out from Grandmaster Lundie, who's of course known worldwide for his amazing work in the hip hop space. But wow, Elizabeth was
isn't that
amazing. I had goosebumps. What did you think?
You know, there's such a lot to take away from a discussion. You know, just the whole notion that we always speak about the benefits of learning in music, yes, and it's very important, but to keep remembering that we should do music for the sake of music. That is enough reason. So
Absolutely.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for that, and also for linking us with the future and see how music supports, you know, preparing our children for future careers and for, you know, resilience and mental health. Such a lot. I am definitely going to listen to that talk again, you know, in my own time.
No, definitely. I think there were so many key takeaways from that. I mean,
Absolutely.
Elizabeth mentioned how powerful music, the powerful role it plays in mental health and mental wellness, expressing feelings. And we know how children struggle with that. So yeah, it's just absolutely incredible. But I know that leads us into our next panel discussion. So I'm going to hand over to you, Anina, and hear what our next panel discussion is all about.
Belinda, I'm very, very excited and very passionate about this topic. And hello, everyone. Good morning from Anina. The next panel discussion is titled Learn to Earn, and it is about entrepreneurship to career opportunities. And it's absolutely fantastic that we have a group of people who really can speak about this topic in such a way that it will definitely extend your understanding of it. So we are very happy to welcome Joan Ciro, Greg Maqoma, and Mariapaola McGurk. So welcome to all three of you. I'm very, very happy that you can be with us today. And we are going to speak about careers in the arts. We are going to speak about arts entrepreneurship and how the arts can contribute to the economy of South Africa. And I think that is very important. Interesting enough for our international guests, in our curriculum for the grade 7 to 9 learners in creative arts, it is expected that a child sees at least one live performance per term or experiences at least one art exhibition per term. And the whole reason for that, for writing that in the curriculum, was to see how learners can be exposed to live performances, but also become arts consumers of the future, you know, building audiences of the future and also contributing to the arts economy of South Africa. So with that as a little introduction, warm welcome to all three of you. I see you are all here, Joan, Greg, and Mariapaola. And Mariapaola, I would like to start off with you this morning. Good morning, everyone. Lovely seeing you on a beautiful Saturday morning. I would like to ask you just to talk about, you know, the whole issue of creative entrepreneurship in your field where you work, and why is it important that it is something that we should focus on in arts curriculum?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm going to try keep it short and try keep it to 3 points. This is a huge topic, and it's a topic that I hope this is the beginning of more engagement and more discussion about, because even at university level, it's something that is not seen as a priority. And I think if it was seen as a priority, the creative economy of South Africa could grow exponentially. The first is my story. I went to school 25 years ago, and I was quite a difficult child at school. I was rebellious, I was disruptive. I was told that I had leadership qualities, but I found the disruption more exciting than the compliance with what I was told. So I disrupted a lot, and I didn't do very well academically. By the end of matric, I received a standard grade pass. I couldn't even get into university with my marks. But I went on to do a master's in business administration, which I completed 3 years ago. So it wasn't for lack of ability that I didn't do well at school. It was a variety of other components, which there isn't enough time to go into. But I just want to say one story from when I was at school. I did high grade accountancy up till matric. And in my finals, I got a standard grade F. And what that did for me for the next 20 years as a visual artist, as an arts practitioner, was I truly believed that I didn't understand numbers. And I truly believed that I didn't have the capacity to venture into numbers. So when people were talking about numbers or there was business discussion, I would go quiet because I don't have that skill. And it just became factual to me that I don't have that skill. And when I did my MBA, I had to do financial management, which we had to write exams, we had to do proposals, it was quite comprehensive. And I got a distinction in financial management at MBA level. Now, this is a person with the same brain. The big difference was that at the MBA level, it was very, very catered to what my context was, my world. So lots of the work was done on my creative company. For our exams, we got the case study before the exam. We worked in groups for 3 weeks before the final exam at MBA level to try analyze that case study and try figure out what could the questions be that they asked. We could take notes in with us, and then we had to analyze. And that whole process was a way that my brain could do. The way that we learn at school is not right for everybody. And to such an extent that it had impacted my 20-year career until I had the opportunity to do my master's. And as teachers, I really think we have to be aware of that. The way that we are taught has such an impact on what students have the capabilities of doing and limitations that they believe they have. So that's point number one. Point number two, somehow along the way, we have decided that people and students are good at one thing. That's a creative child, that's an academic child, that's a scientific child, that's a sports child. It's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. Arts crosses over into science. Science crosses over into numbers. Numbers cross over into sports. There is such a fluid movement between these different compartments that we have decided are silos, and the impact we have on children by defining which silo they fit into limits where they can go and what they can achieve for the rest of their life. Point number two. Point number three, the creative economy is bigger than arts and culture. And there is a limitation when teachers speak about, from my experience, when teachers speak about arts and culture, they speak about the one part of a much larger pie. And when parents hear that, they get very nervous that there's no jobs in that sector. So I'm going to quickly explain what the creative economy is. Again, there's need for more discussion, but just so that, that participants in this talk are aware of this. The creative economy has a variety of sectors within it. And according to the Department of Arts and Culture, the latest paper, they divide it into the following categories: visual arts and craft, audio, visual and interactive media, design and creative services, performance and celebration, Press, books and info, culture and natural heritage. Music falls under performance and celebration. So there are many sectors within the creative economy. The creative economy contributed 6% of jobs to the South African, to the South Africa, I don't know how to say that, to South Africa last year and the year before. The way that those 6% of jobs are broken up, the first section is cultural occupations in the creative industries. That counted for 0.4% of those jobs. 6% is 1 million jobs. The second section is cultural occupations in non-cultural industries, like a curator in a bank gallery, in a gallery that's in a bank, or an industrial designer who works for a motor industry. That counted for 1.9% of jobs. Then you have the last section, which is non-cultural occupations in the creative economy, which counted for 3.7%. And that is things like a bookkeeper working in a gallery. Now, the whole sector counts for 6% of jobs. There are jobs in the creative economy. The connection and the problem is that, number one, we don't speak about the creative economy. And number two, we never actually go into what this economy entails. It's only a small percentage of people that work within this economy that are the visual artist or the dancer. The people that work around the musician are many. There are so many jobs for each of those artists, for each of those designers. And if we start looking at the sector as a whole, education within arts and culture makes so much sense, because if you're going to work within that sector, you have to have an understanding of what it is that an artist does, what it is that a dancer does. So when we talk about entrepreneurship and employment within the creative economy, we are not only talking about the artist who is going to sell their artwork. We are talking about all the jobs that take that artist to be able to sell their artwork. So in a nutshell, I am a visual artist. I am also an entrepreneur. I own my own company. I do consulting, I do research, and I sell visual arts. And in the last 25 years, I have seen that there are so many disconnects between the reality of being in the creative industry as a practitioner and what is taught. And if we make stronger bridges between those, I think there'll be a lot more support from government, from parents, from schools in the growth of the creative economy and its training in our school systems and in our tertiary education system. That's it.
Absolutely, absolutely, Mariapaola. That is so important what you said, you know, that careers are more than just the performing artist or the visual artist, but a whole universe of possibilities that we really need to explore. So colleagues and ladies and gentlemen, that was Mariapaola McGurk. She's a lecturer in creative entrepreneurship at the University of Johannesburg. So I would like to go straight over now to Joan Ciro, because we have spoken about, you know, the disconnect between what is taught and the creative economies. And Joan is the head of dramatic arts at Redham House in Constantia in the Cape. And Joan, I'm very sure you would be able to shed a bit of light on your approach to this whole topic and maybe address the whole disconnect that can, you know, that exists between what happens in the school and what really should be happening, so that our learners understand, you know, how you can learn to earn in the arts.
Thank you so much for having me. One of the things that I have found is that before we can even create entrepreneurs, we have a problem with convincing parents that we can create entrepreneurs, because there's still this perception, and I'm so glad Mariapaola touched on this, that we categorize and compartmentalize students, where I have found as a teacher of dramatic arts, that very often the students that go on to become entrepreneurs are those students who can think outside the box, where they use physical science, for instance, to create their own jobs. And I think that that is what we forget. The second thing that I think is such a pity is that when we get to graduate level, we forget that we have to begin this process at prep school. Because if we are going to create this concept and this perception that entrepreneurs are created, we have to start down school. Now, in grade 7 and in grade 9, they have to create a market day. And for me, we have to tap into that attitude and that perception. And I think that there are two areas that we have to cover. The first is that we have to show parents, show students cross-curricular teaching. So this idea that dramatic arts or visual arts or music or dance is independent of other subjects is hugely problematic, because I have parents come to me when I have an incredibly talented student who can think out of the box, who's a possible entrepreneur, and a parent says to me, but I want my child to do a real subject. They don't see the arts as viable necessarily after school. And I found that some students go because their parents have forced them to study law, and then they come back and they use law to go into the creative arts. And for me, that's so important, and it tells me so much about that. So I know that as a teacher, I don't want to hear what I should do. I want to hear how I should do it, because that is our problem. We've got this huge amount that we have to cover. But when we get, okay, let's start something new, teachers go, fabulous, but can I fit this in? And so at prep school level and at senior level, we forget that if we show students that business economics or EMS down school can provide for a career in the arts, then I think parents are going to buy into this and students are going to buy into this. So what are some of those subjects? The physical arts, and I'm not going to go into that, but our design department has started an innovation lab where they use all this collaboration. Computer studies, languages, physical sciences, all those subjects. And then briefly, I want to talk about the fact that the arts have always promoted soft skills. Always, that's been part of our subjects. So when this buzzword arrived on the scene, and I do mean a buzzword because not everybody understood it at the beginning, when soft skills were being promoted, I looked at those soft skills and I giggled, because that's what we've always covered. That's what we've always understood. However, subconsciously, we have covered that. And I think that we as teachers have got to approach those soft skills more consciously and more mindfully. And I do think that I say consciously, mindfully, so that we use those soft skills to integrate other subjects and to explain why and what they are using. So especially with my juniors going right up to grade 11, when I give a task, I say to them, why are we doing this? What are we covering? How is that going to help you? And many of them immediately understand that, not necessarily all of them. I think that as students at college level, we have to teach them, or even at prep school, how do you work out a business plan to sell your product? How do you use platforms? How do you use advertising? Can we use podcasts? Can we use Facebook? And then hard copy advertising, and that's where computers come in, where we design hard copy advertising. How do we arrange exhibitions? How do we arrange taking a production to Grahamstown? How do we find funding? Who do we approach? If we want to sell our product, do we understand that that is essentially a business approach? And not just, I'm very talented, I'm going out into the world. And for me, that understanding of cross-curricular teaching, that understanding that students have that they can use these skills to go into a job market which they have to create. You know, one of the things that shattered me when I researched this a couple of months ago was that 1.2 million of our graduates do not have jobs. And the point is that there's still a perception that if you go to university, you're going to have a job. And that is no longer the case. It simply isn't. But those who can think outside the box, who can take everything that they've learned and integrate and synthesize that knowledge, those are the ones who are going to leave school, or they're going to leave university and they're going to go, but I don't have to only go into this field. And I think, for instance, in Britain, because a lot of my students have gone over there, we don't have students going to university and necessarily studying the area in which they're going to go to. So they may major in languages and land up in the banking system. And that perception hasn't yet been made aware sufficiently in this country, I don't think. And then when you've created this business model, how do you use soft skills to ensure that your product, your company, if that's what you create, actually succeeds? Because it's all very well being this enormously creative person with so much to offer, but if you can't work with people, if you can't be creative, if you can't be disciplined, if you can't handle time management, if you don't know how to lead people, you can't succeed. You cannot work in isolation, even if it's an area such as the fine arts. And please, I don't imagine that all fine artists work, independently, but they too have to engage with the world. And I think that's so important. And we often fail to teach students how to find a space, for instance, how to apply our knowledge when we want funding, for instance, from the National Lotto. Who do we go to? How do we do it? How are we going to convince them that we need that funding? So I think that for me, what is desperately important is that we start from prep school, right through secondary, right through undergrads and postgrads, making them aware, if not directly teaching them how to integrate this process and how to succeed in the arts. I think that is so important. And that's how I feel. And I think many students who have come back to me have said to me, we didn't go into the theatre, but wow, you won't believe how much the arts, particularly dramatic arts, has served me in other fields. And they have become entrepreneurs. And for me, that is so exciting about the arts. That's it.
Absolutely, Joan. Thank you so much for giving us a real picture of what can happen in a classroom, from taking that learner through, from the conception of a product. As you say, it doesn't help if you're just a, wonderful, talented artist, but you don't know where to go to with that. And what I appreciate in what you said is really, looking at that business approach that is so necessary and so important, that I have to say, yes, we are definitely neglecting in our schools. So you built a beautiful bridge for us between what Mariapaola spoke about, where she gave us a background into the creative economy of South Africa, and you spoke about what should happen in the classroom, to support the learner to go into the field. I would like to go over now to Greg Maqoma, who is the Associate Artistic Director of Moving Into Dance, and he is an internationally renowned dancer and, of course, choreographer and teacher. And Greg, you live in the world where you have to make it happen and where you must make it work. You are an artist, but you are a business person. You're an entrepreneur. Tell us about your perspective. We can't hear you now, Greg. Can you just make sure that you are not muted? Just have a look at your mic setting, perhaps. We still can't hear Greg. Can you rejoin, perhaps, Greg? If you could go out and then rejoin. Can you just speak again? I just want to hear. No, we don't hear you at the moment. Yeah, we are going to ask you to rejoin. It might have something to do with your mic settings. Okay, so I'm going to go back. Greg, so if you could just go out and rejoin us again and just look at your mic settings. Okay, so while Greg is going to join us and he's getting his sound back, I would like to continue this discussion. Mariapaola, you've heard now what happens in the classroom or what should happen in the classroom as Joan has, described it. I just want to highlight something that, I think there's a bit of light in the, at the end of the tunnel as far as policy is concerned, because the education department in South Africa, and this is now for our guests from overseas, is working on developing a 3 streams curriculum. And the 3 streams curriculum is to allow a learner to go either into an academic stream, the traditional grade 12 with the subjects on offer, currently on offer. And then there's the vocational stream. And the vocational stream is subjects that will allow a learner to go more in a skills-based career like engineering or architecture or design. And within that field, the vocational field, the arts lie there. And then there's the occupational stream where we look at other types of skills like hairdressing or panel beating and so on. And those are the skills that are traditionally offered by our schools of skills currently. So by the end of grade 9, a learner will have the opportunity to rather focus on a vocational orientated subject. And Joan, I think it links to what you said with, children going to university and still without a job. And that is to address that. And at the National Department, this is just background information for our discussion further, is that design and art, dance and drama and music will be redesigned as subjects with a very strong component of, business and more skills orientated, Mariapaola, to look at other skills associated, for instance, with drama and so on. So just to answer in what you have said, there might be, but that's going to be a long journey, because it's an ongoing process. So Mariapaola, just more of your thoughts from a university perspective on that.
When I did my final research for my MBA, I interviewed leaders within the creative economy of their views on the subject, which was creative hubs and the development of creative entrepreneurs in South Africa as a way to positively impact youth unemployment. And I interviewed, I think, 10 people, and they, even internally within the creative economy, all had different definitions of what the creative economy is, where arts and culture fits, and the high level information of the sector. So, it's great that the Department of Basic Education is questioning where different things lie, but the truth is that far more conversations, discussions have to be had internally within the departments and the sectors within the creative economy, that we align, because we cannot start promoting and pushing the value of the creative economy to departments outside of the sector, governmental, corporate, industry if we don't even understand what the sector is internally. So from my perspective, that is a big challenge, that if you are a lecturer in the arts, you have an understanding of the bigger economy that you are a part of. There's still debates that arts and culture don't want economy and arts to be put together. They don't want the value of the arts to be undermined by having to the value of generating income. And I understand that debate, but it's absolutely not an either or. It's not that we're going to become hungry, greedy, franchise-based models. That's the creative economy globally. 90% of the sector is made up of micro enterprises. A micro enterprise is 1 to 5 employees. So this is a micro sector, and around the world, there is so much analysis starting to happen that ideas and clues into where our world is going, where our economy should be going, may lie in how the creative sectors function in a variety of ways. The idea of generating money, but still having impact. The idea of not trying to overtake from others, and whoever does similar to you is your competitor, but rather that they're your collaborator, they're your partner. There's psychological and practical values that the creative economy offers that has to be known. And our teachers have to realize they are not teaching a child just how to draw. They're teaching a child a much bigger picture of how to think. So, you know, I'm not from the basic education space. So I can't really speak to the different tiers and whether that's a good system or not. I'm knowledgeable there, but I can speak to the immediate opportunity we have if we're smart, if we're savvy, if we speak to each other and we start seeing where the creative economy fits into this bigger picture. I see Greg's joining, so I'm going to keep quiet and let him get on with it.
Okay, let's see if we can get Greg on. Thank you, Mariapaola. While we're waiting for Greg, I think that is so important. And Joan, I think you will agree with that, you know, that, you know, for now, the whole matter of collaboration, of, you know, working with others and not seeing yourself as a little exclusive entity is really what's going to help us survive as an arts industry. Joan, do we do enough of that, of showing how we can collaborate through the arts on school level and showing all those skills that Mariapaola has spoken about? Oh, here's Greg. I'm just going to ask you, Joan, to quickly answer the question, and then I'm going to ask Greg to see. Greg, I just want to check if we can hear you. Can you just say something? We still can't hear you. While we are looking at Greg's audio, Joan, if you just can continue with the answer for now.
I'm going to speak, if I may, simply because I know the system better, the IEB system, and obviously we do not work in isolation. But I think that we are moving, and it's possibly driven by Department of Basic Education, we are moving towards students becoming more practically cognizant of what you can do with the arts. And I think that for me is incredibly important. The other thing that I quickly want to touch on is that there's the three-stream approach. And you're talking about an academic stream, and then you're talking about the second stream, which includes the arts, but it also includes engineering and subjects.
Joan, did you mute yourself now? I think Joan muted herself.
There you go. Can you hear me?
There you go. Okay. Joan, and just on that, we have 1 more minute left. So if you can just wrap up from your side. Yes.
I simply think that we need to integrate more. Have we done enough yet? No, I don't think so. But I do believe that both basic education and the IEB, with which I'm familiar, are definitely moving in that direction. And I'm very excited about that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joan. It's a pity that we have lost Greg in this discussion. I would have loved to listen to him. But I want to thank Mariapaola and Joan for the discussion this morning. As you said, Mariapaola, at the beginning, this is a much bigger discussion. And thank you for making us aware of how wide we should consult
in this in which we are at the moment, where we want to move forward. So with that, I really want to thank you both for your contribution today to the Creative Arts Conference, and we will definitely speak again in future, and all the best with all your ventures. Thank you very, very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much to our panel. Thank you very much, Anina. I learned a lot. I mean, learn to earn is quite a very important conversation in the art space about the entrepreneur side of it. I think my biggest take home was the creative economy is bigger than it's bigger than arts and culture.
Correct.
Because the artists and a whole lot of other people in the background, they play a role in creating jobs in that space. So that was my biggest take home.
Absolutely.
So do remember to engage with us again and visit our exhibitors booth and our partners booth as well. Engage with us and be able to interact with the challenges so that we have. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms and using the hashtag CAC2022. Right now, I'm just going to hand over to Belinda to speak more about what's going to